Hey, I'm Mark,
And I'm Craig.
and this is Songwriter's Tales. And today, Craig, uh, this is a cool one. I
Another
mean,
cool one. Yeah.
you're thinking, it's kind of, okay, how is this going to tie into songwriting? But it does. Tell us about who we're going to be talking to today for.
We are going to be talking to another good friend of mine who lives in Nashville. I'm going to mention a couple of names here: Keith Urban, Peter Frampton, Tommy Emmanuel. All right. Those are just three people that are good buddies with my good buddy. And the reason they're good buddies with him is because he is the guy that supplies their guitars, which are called Maton, Maton, and they're from Australia. The guitars are. And any guitar player that plays a Maton knows that these are the limousine of guitars. I play two of them. And I know from personal experience. So I said, Bill, come on our show and let's talk about the guitar, songwriting, and Tommy Emmanuel.
Yeah, of course.
What do
And
you
Keith
say,
Urban.
Mark? And Keith Urban. Oh, yeah. What do you say, brother?
Let's do it. Hey, it's Mark. We are back with a very special guest, Bill Warmoth of Artisan Guitars. And I have to say, Bill, before Craig jumps in, I went to your website a little while ago and it's like, what is it? I instantly start drooling when I just like scroll through these guitar. It's like, oh, I want that one. And I want to play that one. And so, yeah, this is going to be a really cool discussion. Craig, why don't you give the man his proper due, and then we'll get into this.
Be glad to. Hello, Bill. Good to see you, man.
Hi, Craig.
Yeah, we're glad you're here. So I met you several years ago when I went out to Nashville. You are in the only close area you handle what's called the Maton guitars, Maton. And
Yes.
anybody who's a guitar player knows what Maton is.
Yeah.
Actually, most players don't know, but we'll get into that later.
Is that right? Well, okay.
Yeah.
You would know the answer. Well, all the people that I know because probably I'm telling about it. Maybe
Of course.
Right.
maybe that's what it is.
Yeah, you're always showing it off, pulling it out of the
Yeah, that's
case
what
and
it is.
saying,
But I came into the world of Maton several years ago, and since then I had one, and now I've got two, and it's just one of several that I'm going to have eventually. So we've got a lot of discussion. People that are listening to us, this is Songwriter's Tales, and you're not a songwriter, you're not a publisher, you're not a producer, but you are.
well, he
You
might be a
are a
songwriter. You don't know
provider.
if he's.
You are a provider of one of the most important elements of the songwriters, especially in Nashville. And that's where you are, is Nashville, for those that are listening. And we're gonna kind of explore the whole process. We had discussed this pre-show that with our show, we talk about songwriters, we talk about artists. We have artists come on and they talk about their careers. Well, artists have to have songs. And songs have to be written, and either the artist writes the song or another songwriter writes the song and gets it to the artist. So you got the artist, you got the songwriter, and then you've got the guitar that speaks to the songwriter. And
Hopefully. Yes.
no, yeah, for sure. And as a guitar player and as a songwriter, and Mark's the same, we know for a fact when we go look for a guitar, we'll play 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 of the same guitar. It's got,
Same
it's the same
models.
model, same
Yeah.
color, everything. And they'll all look identical, but one of them, it's kind of like a puppy. That one will just,
It
I
will
love
pick
you.
you. It will
Take
pick
me
you.
home.
Yeah.
You've just defined inconsistency.
Well, or we call it artisanship. It's like they're all made with
Yeah.
care, but one. I like Craig's analogy. It's like it's a puppy. It's like this one just wants me. It wants me to take it home so bad.
Now,
Well,
I will say,
there's a lot of truth to that. Yes.
and I will say, Bill, Maton is very consistent. in it, what I see.
They really are.
Yeah, there's a lot of, and I won't name any names, but both of you know who they are, that you can play 5 of them, and one of them you might own, and the other 4 you wouldn't give $5 for, even though they're thousands of
Well,
dollars.
you're
fire
right.
with it.
We've learned that over the years. Having a much bigger store with a lot of other bench built brands that are very well recognized in the American market. And they were all chasing consistency, honestly. So if you liked the standard voicing of a Martin, that's where you went. If you instead liked the Collins voicing, you chase that consistency. And that's something there's a whole history there about Guitar Building 101 that starts in the late 60s for U.S. builders. And they were all chasing consistency, I think. Bob Taylor kind of achieved that as the kind of the Henry Ford of the guitar business, in a sense. He did it, I think, through standard processing with CNC patterns and that sort of thing. And then there's the other extreme that some of the more hippie motivated movement in the late 60s, interpreting 300-year-old violin building books and wondering, what are they talking about? Tapping wood and deaf people listening to, or looking for resonant frequencies in wood and that sort of thing. There's a lot to all that. I don't want to get off on a tangent, but the point is they were all trying to build a better mousetrap. And when they got there, can they recreate it multiple times in a row? That's consistency.
Yeah.
And some achieved that in the, 40, 50 years since then. And yet when you get to the mass production level, there's I think a very good example of Martin guitars coming over to the United States in the late 1800s. I forget what the disagreement was, but there were laws written in Germany about how stringed instruments should be constructed, written in 1690. And there was some disagreement about, we don't want to follow that methodology. But the craftsmen they brought over in the late 1800s, of course, they landed in New York. By the time the Depression comes around, you think about the level of production is very low. In my mind, that means that these craftspeople, they get challenged with poor times. The economy is not good. They're not building guitars with spruce tops because spruce is more expensive. They start building guitars and ukuleles with mahogany tops and mahogany back and sides, which is a real challenge to get the frequency range that a spruce top would have. And yet they're kind of scratching their heads going like, well, we know what a guitar is supposed to sound like, a good guitar. And so they're trying to apply that same technique, but modify that technique. And in my imagination, they kind of age out after the Depression when, at the same time, orders ramp up and they start, building a lot of guitars, and you can't morph those people into other people unless they taught journeyman taught other people how to do what they did. That I think that craft becomes kind of lost in mass production. And yet it's historically important. The whole history of that company is very, very important. And so yet I think a lot of Martin fans would tell us, let's, admit or agree if we can, that, you got to play 20 or 30 to find the one. That's what I think you're talking about.
Yeah, that is what I'm talking about. Yes. Yeah. That's the bigger picture of that.
Yeah.
Can I?
And I kind of experienced that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It is true. There's a subtle thing. I think there's almost an undefinable thing when guitars like Maton are so closely built so well. There's just an undefinable, unexplainable thing that makes you just go, this is the one. You find, because I struggled. I had 2 or 3. This could be. Now I want to bring something up. First of all, Maton is made in Australia. That's how you have to say it, too.
Australia.
Australia.
Right.
They're made in
Australia.
Australia. And just for our listening audience, I'm gonna mention a few artists that I don't know if they all frequent your place. I know one in particular frequents it pretty frequently. He's a frequenter, and that would be Tommy Emmanuel. Tommy Emmanuel, and now guitar players know who Tommy
Yeah.
Emmanuel is. They might not know Maton, but they know
Right.
Tommy Emmanuel. But if they know Tommy Emmanuel, well, they're listening to Maton, and
Well,
so
that's how I first heard of Maton guitars, because
that's right.
I
That's
saw
that's how most
Tommy.
people come to the brand. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw Tommy on some small theater doing his thing, and my first thought was, my God, who is this cat? And my second thought was, man, does that guitar sound good? And I kept looking at the headstock trying to figure out what he was playing, and I didn't recognize it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a very common thing. It's I'll give you the short story, but Bill and Vera May start the company in 1946. That's the same year that Leo Fender starts building guitars.
Wow. Okay.
So this year they're an 80-year-old family-owned company, third generation.
Wow.
So unbeknownst to us Americans, which is very interesting to me, all the British players in the 60s and 70s knew about the brand. From a production standpoint, making enough guitars to, break into a marketplace around the world. They just didn't make a lot of guitars to have a footprint in North America, in my view, right? But name a British band and they played Maton guitars. The Beatles.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. I can show you pictures in their 70th anniversary book. The Rolling Stones, everybody you can think of.
That is incredible.
I can name you songs that were played on a specific guitar that were a top 10 hit, played by a certain player that was a Maton guitar.
Okay, I need to hear that. I need.
We just didn't know that at the time. So hang on a second here.
All right, yeah, I need that.
That's cool, man.
That's something that probably most people don't know. So yeah, I definitely want to know that.
It's interesting that the family would take an interest in. It's very interesting to me anyway that after so many years, 70 years in existence, they would take the time to go through Bill May's archives and piece together this story from all these notes and photos and letters and all sorts of things. And then they had a book published. This is 10 years ago.
Cool.
Wow.
The music that Maton made. So I got a copy of this a long time ago, but just flipping through a page here, 60s backstage. You Really Got Me, the Kinks. 1964 was played on a Maton SE777 Supreme.
That's an electric guitar, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They made electric guitars and acoustic guitars.
Right.
Friday on My Mind, Easy Beats.
Well, Australia.
1966, right? A Sapphire 12-string. Give me Shelter, the Rolling Stones.
Oh, man.
1969, that was the EG240 Supreme. So they had a footprint in British music.
Sure.
That, again, we weren't even aware. We were oblivious here in the United States, but they never had a footprint here. I don't think anyone really knows how it got to Hollywood, but Elvis played one in Jailhouse Rock in 57?
Wow. I didn't know that. Did you know that?
No.
Fred?
So you need to watch the black and white movie, but it is clearly a
idea.
Clearly a scene with him playing a guitar in a studio, and I'm leafing through the book, see if I can find it real quickly for you. Oh, and these guys, you might know these guys.
Yeah, I've recognized
Yeah, we've
that
seen
guy.
them.
Yeah. Okay. That's a Maton guitar that they're playing.
That's so
But
cool.
anyway, so they have this crazy long history, And yet, as Americans, you're right. What brings people to the brand is, that awareness of Tommy Emmanuel for the most part.
Yeah.
And it's to me, it's very interesting that they have this long history of probably embracing CNC technology long before any American builders did, because they are an 80-year-old company.
Mm-hmm.
Seems to me that while American builders were building in small numbers, I'm talking about prized American builders, Dana Bourgeois,
Yeah.
Richard Hoover, Santa Cruz, Bill Collins.
The boutique guys.
That's what we specialized in. So that was our yardstick.
Sure.
And there's a lot to that. And especially if you're building small numbers of guitars, it's easier probably to achieve consistency.
Mm-hmm.
But to throw yourself out into the world market and to make, 6,000 guitars a year and have them be consistent, that's even more of a challenge. So I think that's the Bob Taylor success story.
Mm-hmm.
Now, are they consistently robust? That's a question. Players have to define that. And we all have, subjective opinions about that. But fast forward to today, in the last 23 years, they've experienced a lot of development in the custom shop. It's seemingly some lighter build techniques, some thinner finish techniques, all the things that really American builders have been exploring, off and on for the last 30, 40 years. And to that end, again, chasing the ultimate goal, which is consistency. You can play 6 of the same model and you can't find one that stands out. They all sound robust. They all sound, amazingly responsive. Yeah. And I think that's a surprise to anybody that comes to the brand. And I hear it all the time from first-time, buyers who they definitely have. We interview everybody that wants to buy something over the phone, obviously. How tall are you? What do you weigh? What kind of pick do you use? And we don't ask all those questions. We could say, how many Taylors and Martins do you have in your collection? So that's their yardstick.
Yeah.
And it's important that we have knowledge about those different models and their experience, to not overpromise what this brand will do, but then to have the reaction where you say, they're going to try this for the first time, they get it, and they're, oh my God, how I'm missing that? How did I miss this? So back to the songwriting thing, I think. I've a lot of songwriters in the shop. We have the big shop. And
I'm sure.
Visitors and traffic coming and going. And I think men are the worst culprits of this, that, we're all attracted to something visually, and guitars especially. Look at that one over there. Oh, look at that one over there.
And that's the deciding factor sometimes too.
Well, it certainly, comes into play. Usually, regrettably, if it's the primary factor, it needs to be, how does it play? How does it sound? So if you're doing a blind taste test, it's not a, go stand in front of the mirror and say, how's this guitar look on me? Okay.
Yeah, right.
That's
a whole nother story.
That's a whole different story.
Yeah.
But for these guitar players and at all different levels to be attracted to guitars visually, that's part of the inspiration. But of course, they play it, the playability, the sound of it needs to be a motivational, thing that strikes within them to say, I can write some great songs on this guitar, or there's some great songs in this guitar. I've had people say that.
That's true too.
That is true too.
So a lot of truth to that from a songwriter's point of view. And at the end of the day, it's a tool. Right? So, I think that the Maton is a perfect example of something that surprises these players, that it is so robust, and yet it is just a tool, and it's a pretty magnificent tool. get me off on the electronics here for a minute. But
Yeah, no, we were going to go there.
yeah, but the truth is that when we had, we were a Fender custom shop dealer, a showcase dealer, only 32 on the planet, number one Collins dealer in the world for some time, number one Santa Cruz dealer in the world for years.
Mm-hmm.
Bourgeois, Hudson Dalton, National Resophonic. You would not believe the number of Resonator fans in Italy. It's crazy. But all of these players at all different levels, many of them want to plug in.
Mm.
So we've had experiences with players at a professional level, players at a beginning level who want to plug in. And that's just part and parcel of what you're working with, especially with acoustic instruments. So, you go to the shelf, you say, well, I've got every brand of aftermarket pickup and that you can imagine, which has improved a lot in maybe 4 years technology wise.
Mm-hmm.
But the majority of which evolve around one central component, an undersaddle transducer on an acoustic guitar, a strip of piezo material. And of course, what everybody's objection about that has been or would be, it doesn't sound like a guitar. It sounds kind of artificial.
Mm-hmm.
We can add a secondary or tertiary component. We can add external pedals. We can do a lot of things to manipulate the sound to try and make it sound more like the guitar. Short of putting a large recording mic in front of it, we can't really reproduce the sound of the guitar, which is what motivated us to buy the damn thing. So there's that.
Hey, I am here to tell you about episodes number 42, 43, and 44. This is a superstar Nashville producer, Mr. Kyle Lenning. He's worked with Waylon Jennings, Dan Seals, George Strait, Kenny Rogers, Zach Brown, but his biggest deal is he is Randy Travis's producer. I'm telling you, man, when Mark and I were talking to this man, we both felt like deer in the headlight. You can see Mark still looks like a deer in the headlights.